Greetings, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Everything Went Black podcast. Keith Huckins of Deadguy and Rorschach and Kiss It Goodbye, three incredible bands, joins us this week to discuss the brand new Deadguy record, Near Death Travel Services, now available on Relapse Records. Go out, buy one of the several colors of vinyl that's available to you. Keith is probably one of my favorite guitar players and has been a huge influence on me over the years. It was great catching up with Keith, and we had a lot of fun talking. So if you are listening to this podcast, it is likely that you are aware of the Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse, a group of content creators at war with mediocrity. Kicking things off every other Monday, we have Brandon Legion's Horror Wolf 666. Up next on Tuesday, Jackie Smith brings us Into the Necrosphere, the finest extreme metal podcast in the land. Wednesday, as well as being Everything Went Black's publishing day, is also Iblis Manifestations Day. Thursday, as well as being Necro Thursday for the Necromaniacs horror podcast, it gives us day one of Carl Hikara's Soul Knox podcast. Friday, we have Spitball Media, an irreverent pop culture podcast. Saturday is a day off. But don't worry, because Sunday, Carl Hikara returns with day two of Soul Knox. Carl and I are full swing into our Darkness Weaves collaboration. We're working on the Kane novels. The current discussion involves the Darkness Weaves novel, from which we got the title of the show. I'd like to thank everyone who listens. I appreciate the support. Definitely follow us on Instagram. Check us out on Facebook. Leave us a review on whatever platform you listen. But if you want to take it one step further, you can join the Everything Went Black Patreon. Join the community for as little as $1 a month. You get access to bonus material. For $5 a month, you get all the bonus material plus early access to the regular shows. And for $25 a month, you can become a sponsor. Mr. Huckins, thank you for joining us this fine evening, and I'm glad to have you back, man.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, always good to talk to you there, Mike.
Yeah, I caught up with you a little bit at the Emperor show in Brooklyn. That was nice to see you there.
Yeah. You were still a single man back then.
That's right, man. That's just recently joined the ranks of the married, man. I'm real excited.
Welcome aboard.
Thanks a lot, man. So far married life's been really good to me.
Kicking ass, great. That's awesome.
The last time we spoke, it was sort of on the heels of a bunch of the Deadguy reunion shows. And
Right.
and that was you guys just getting back together again and playing all the old songs.
Right.
So at that point, I'd caught you guys play a couple different spots. It may or may not have been before the Decibel Beer Festival where you guys played in that gigantic stage there.
No, that was actually our first show back.
That was your first show back.
That was our first show back. Yeah. We were basically coerced into that being our first show back. So that was a big roll of the dice. That was a bit nerve-wracking beforehand.
Wow, I actually, that's funny that I don't remember it that way. I remember seeing you guys at like St. Vitus or something like that, and then that's interesting though.
No, that was that was the comeback show.
Yeah. So there's a whole different set of activities that go around performing live with the band that you
Right.
you played with in over 2 decades
Mm-hmm.
versus creating new music.
Yeah.
And they're two very different things. So at what point, like, because you guys are doing the reunions for a bit, like there was a lot of shows. There was like every now and then I hear you guys playing.
Yeah.
Caught you guys in Jersey, caught you guys in New York, that kind of thing. You guys
Mhm.
flew out to LA, I think, and did one of the beer fests out there, maybe.
Yep. Yeah.
So at what point along that process Did you guys decide you wanted to work on new material?
So pretty soon after we got back together, particularly Dave and Chris wanted to do new stuff kind of right out of the gate. And I'm not gonna lie, I was content to be, like infest. I'm like, we're fine. We're all, at that time, if not 50, close to it.
Hmm.
And I'm like, if we play a few times a year and, do some shows here and there, I was fine with that. Um, I was also fine with that because logistically, I live way upstate New York, so I'm a good 4 or 5 hour ride to practice. Um, but Dave, in the intervening, few decades, had picked up playing guitar, and he had a bunch of stuff that he'd written, and he basically just started bringing it to practices, and we started just fleshing stuff out. And again, I was super hesitant, especially with old bands getting back together. It's always not the greatest thing to hear new music. And basically we just kept kind of hacking at stuff, and we got a few songs together. We started playing them out live a little bit, and we're like, okay, this is working. The songs felt like Dead Guy songs. Like, it didn't feel like we were doing, anything that wasn't too far removed from what we had done in the past. Um, and we just kind of kept at it. And then, and tell me if I'm jumping ahead too much if you want to parse this out more. But when we recorded, um, we basically realized, like, holy shit, this sounds like us. Like, it really took the studio to, like, especially for me, for it to really crystallize to be like, holy Christ, we're making a Dead Guy record.
Did you guys do a bunch of demos or anything like that prior to getting into the studio?
We demoed stuff a few times at a couple different studios. And it was closer to just like, like getting decent recordings of practices. Um, and none of them really came out sounding all that great, although I do think it helped us learn. But once we got back in the studio with Evitz, who knew us and we were, comfortable with, even though, again, it's been 3 decades. Um, and Evans is very much, a Jersey mook like the rest of us. So he's not shy to like, yell at us and hammer us when we're, not up to snuff. And having him was great. It was fantastic. Like, I can't sing his praises enough.
Yeah, Steve Ebbets recorded, I feel like every record that came out in the 90s that came on the East Coast, it seems like.
It's weird because after we did that Dead Guy record, you know, when we split and I did the Kiss It Goodbye thing, like, and Kiss It Goodbye, for me imploded fairly quickly. After that, I completely dropped out of like that scene. Like, when I stopped playing music, I just got into black metal, and I stopped listening to all those, like, all those bands that came after us. I just, didn't really know anything about until, years later when, bands like Dillinger and whatnot are like making, magazine covers, and I'm like, oh, interesting.
Yeah, yeah, I felt the same way actually. Yeah. No, but a lot of it just seems like All Out War was recording there. There was like, Burnt by the Sun, like a bunch of, I think even like Human Remains might have did shit there like back in the day.
Right. Yeah. I think they just, I think they definitely did some tracks. I don't know if it was with Eric or Steve.
Yeah. Did does Traxy still exist? Like when you guys recorded with Steve, was it at a different studio or was that
Yeah. He has a new place in Belleville.
Oh,
Um,
okay. All right.
I honestly don't even know if his studio has a proper name, or what it is. It's just Steve's place as far as I'm concerned. It's kind of in like it's in like just a neighborhood in Belleville. It's a nice spot. I'm not gonna I don't remember who, but he bought the studio from somebody else who he named the band, and I was like, oh, I've heard of those guys, but I wasn't really familiar with. But it's a great spot, and I mean, and I mean, I think the record came out fucking great. So, I'm really happy with it. It was
Yeah,
cool.
I've only heard the tracks that are out right now. I haven't heard the entire thing yet. So so far it sounds great. I was like for when there was like I think what like three songs, four songs, like half of the record
Yeah,
I think is
yeah.
available
We
right now.
we put four out of the 11 songs are out.
Yeah. So I just remember I was doing like a kettlebell workout in my garage here, and I was like, yeah,
Mhm.
this works. That's like the test for putting a dead guy record on and like lifting weights or something, or kicking the bag. Like
You know,
that's like prime music for that. And I'm like, all right, cool. This passes the kettlebell test.
that's funny because we've actually had a few different people send us like them working out to the record. And I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. It's a little bit weird. Like, I don't want to watch another man work out. No offense there, buddy.
I know that is weird, right? That's like check out this video of me like lifting or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely strange. Yeah, Evans is and Eric Rachel are both like legends out here, in the
Right.
tri-state area. And I've never worked with either one of those guys. I'd love to someday do a session with them. When Toombs signed to Relapse, that was a name that was on our list of people to work with, but the logistics just didn't work out.
Right.
Did you guys go to Alan Dutch's for mastering too?
No, Boatwright, Brad Boatwright did.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, Brad. Yep. He's a solid mastering
Yeah,
engineer.
I mean, again, it sounds great. I've never actually met Brad, but I've like plenty of records he's worked on.
Definitely. Yeah, it would have been too like, you know, it would have made that whole Jersey Steve Evans, Alan Dutchess,
Right. Yeah.
that would have been like the perfect circle there.
I mean, shit. I think Alan did all the Rorschach records.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But yeah, the reunion thing is tricky, man. It seems like every week I hear about a band reuniting, and part of it is like, when Rorschach got back together again, that was great. I loved that
Yeah.
because it was a finite thing. It's just like a moment, you know what I mean? Like you
Yes.
guys reformed, you did that, I think what, like a 10-day tour or something like that.
We did. We actually did shows over the course of 4 years, but
Oh,
it was a weekend at a time.
yeah.
Like, we did we did the three shows like in New York and New Jersey the first time, and one in Boston, and then
Oh, dude.
and the second.
That that weekend, the
Yeah,
one where you guys laid up Poisson Rouge, I think.
that was the second time we did New York. That's when we decided to play three shows in a day, which
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
fucking
That,
um
that was the day of Maryland Death Festival, and I had
right.
gone down to Maryland to see Godflesh and Napalm Death,
Yeah, they
and
fucking killed.
then did about 100 miles an hour all the way back to Brooklyn to catch you the late night set at the Acheron.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that was fucking great, man.
yeah, and then we did a West Coast swing, and then we did like a one off in Austin. We played one of those Chaos and Tejas fests, which was great, but except it was just we literally flew in for the day and back home. It was just in out.
Yeah, that must have been fun to do something like that for sure.
Yeah.
But so that was in the beginning. I feel like the Rorschach stuff was like kind of the leading edge of a lot of bands reuniting. And then next thing you know, there's tons of bands doing reunions, some bands making new records,
Hmm.
and so that must have been some pressure on you to think in the midst of all these reunions, you know, we haven't had a record in what, 25 years. We
Right.
haven't really been playing. We've been playing the old songs, but the creativity though, you know what I mean? Would that hold up? And once you guys got back into the space together, like I don't know what your dynamics were like, but sometimes it gets stressful writing songs with a band.
I don't think we really like. I didn't really feel that much stress because I took a very like I can only claim one song on the record as mine. I have lots of parts in spread out throughout the record, but like there's only one that like I fleshed out. Um, Dave really did the lion's share of the work, and
Oh,
then
cool.
basically he would come in with a skeleton, and then we'd make it ours. And and just like back in the day, everybody contributed, everybody has their stuff all over it. But a lot of the frameworks were Dave's. um and like anytime you have a framework of a song, you hash it out, and then by the time you finish it and you're happy with it, it's you know hardly recognizable to what you started with.
It's kind
um
of the coolest part about writing songs, I think, actually.
yeah, yeah, it definitely is. And so so i didn't I didn't really struggle with writing too much, because I would come up with parts and this and that, and then like they would just kind of find places within the songs that we were working on. um but I mean, Dead Guy was always kind of a mishmash. And I distinctly remember, back in the day, they had like the first couple of parts of Doom Patrol. Basically like they had been practicing for 2 hours before I even showed up, and they're like, we got the beginning of a song, and then like and then basically I just I tacked on like the end part. I was like, oh, I think this will work. And and just like that, now things just kind of seem to fall into place. I think if something's not working, we don't really stress on it. We'll just kind of like table it and then come back to it. And I mean, for the record, the 11 songs we did are it's everything we've written so far. you
Oh,
know which,
cool.
which was the same thing that the Fixation was. Like, we did Fixation, we're like, this is what we got. There's nothing extra. um so yeah, I kind of lost the thread there, but I think you get what I'm saying.
I get what you're saying, man. And so is it fun? That's the next question I had too, because, like you hit a certain point in your life, right? And that you're different. You're a different person in your in
Yeah,
your in your midlife, in your 50s, than you are when you're like 23, and you're motivated by different things, especially like back in the 90s, you're super ambitious to do things, and sometimes like the band that isn't fun, you know what I mean? It's like
right.
you're wrapped up in, the scene and like perception and this and that.
Yeah. So
So 25 years later, how do you guys feel about everything? Like, is it
I
fun?
mean, I can only speak for myself, although I think the guys pretty much agree with me. I think it's been nothing but fun,
Awesome.
because it's really been no pressure. Everything is just kind of at our discretion, at our will. Like, do we want to play a show? All right, let's play a show. If we don't want to do something, or if somebody's got something busy, okay, fine. Fuck it, whatever. You know, there was a little bit of pressure in the studio, because we did have kind of a deadline for to get it done so it would come out in a reasonable amount of time. Like, we came really close to the deadline, which would have meant the record wouldn't have come out till 2026,
Yeah.
which would have been a drag. That would have made me sad. Like, and I mean, we've you know and again, I don't know logistics. I've never been the business guy in any of my bands. um we had the record done probably in January. And the whole time I'm just like, can we just release a song? I want to I'm excited about it. I want to release a song. And like they're like, no, you got to wait till April. And I was like, you guys are trying to kill me. Like, come on.
Yeah,
like,
dude. It
like
it's
if there was going to be somebody in the band who was going to leak it, it definitely was going to be me.
that it's awesome, man. But that's kind of the way of it, man. Like working with a bigger label like Relapse. It's like they have their master plan. They have like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
how they're going to promote it, and
yeah. And
it's
they've been nothing but awesome. They've been fucking fantastic the entire ride. Like, everybody we've dealt with, it's just been a fucking cakewalk. It's just everybody's going out of their way to make our lives easy, which is a far cry from what it was like, when this actually meant something, when I thought I was gonna fucking be a rock god and change the world.
yeah, they're a good bunch of guys over at Relapse for sure.
So yeah, but no, it's been nothing but a blast. And I mean, and the last couple weeks since the record came out, it's kind of just gotten more fun. It doesn't suck to be liked.
Yeah, totally. Because I remember seeing you guys in front of like, like 20 people usually.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
and it's awesome
And I
to
was
come
actively
back.
trying to hit them with my guitar.
Yeah. And it's awesome to like, you know, get the recognition, which I always thought you guys deserved that. I mean, there was like a brief period, there was like a moment when it made sense in the 90s, like when there were bands that were I've never really been a big hardcore fan, you know what I mean?
Right.
And there was like a moment in the 90s when hardcore was embracing a lot of the things that I really liked, like metal and like the amphetamine reptile style bands, that
Yeah,
kind of thing. And then it just became something else, which kind of lost me, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And you guys were like, I think, kind of the harbingers of that in a lot of ways. Like Rorschach, really, Rorschach was like the band that got me interested in that style of hardcore.
right.
And then Dead Guy being the extension of that, and then of course Kissing Goodbye later. So let me ask you,
Hmm.
just a couple weeks ago,
Right.
actually the weekend of my wedding, actually,
Yep.
there was a big show for our friend Rich Hall, who passed away tragically a few months
Hmm.
ago. And Kissing Goodbye also played that one of those nights.
Yeah, yeah. We played the Friday night. That guy played the Saturday.
So how was that, man? I mean, are we gonna have another Kissing Goodbye record?
No, God, no. Listen, I'm having a good time and this is fun. But if I do anything else, then it will stop becoming fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to say no to a record that I think I'm pretty confident with. I mean, another show in the future, maybe, but there's nothing on the horizon. There's definitely nothing planned. This was more of just a confluence of events. I mean, Rich's first tattoo was the Kiss a Goodbye Pop It. So,
Yeah.
I knew what the band meant to him. And then when these reunion shows got, discussed and announced, actually Andrew reached out to me from Seattle, and he's like, he really wanted Kiss a Goodbye to play because him and Tom, being that they still lived out on the West Coast, were still really tight with Rich, and they were like, we want to play these shows. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit nervous, talking to Dead Guy about it, because of silliness that transpired eons ago. But no, they were all very cool with it, and respected the fact that we wanted to play, and Dead Guy would play the next night. And yeah, and the show that we played out in Tacoma, I was terrible. I was unfortunate. I had problems, couldn't hear shit. We sucked. But the New York show went off without a hitch. It was quite fun.
Yeah, I wish I'd been able to make that, man, because like Rich, was a very good friend of mine too. And the reason why I know Andrew is through Rich, really. The
Right.
reason why I met those guys out there was through Rich Hall. Like he had booked like Anodyne playing Enemy tour on the West Coast, the ill-fated Anodyne playing Enemy tour. And that's how I got to meet, all those guys. So
Right.
Rich is like this.
He was the mayor of hardcore.
He really was, man. Like he like there's like was it 5 degrees of separation or whatever? Like with
Yeah, except everybody had one to Rich. Like you could,
yeah,
anybody, via him.
yeah, absolutely. He was this nexus point between all these different people, and everyone always had great things to say about Rich. And like yeah, in spirit, I was down there, but I was
Yeah.
busy getting married that weekend. So
He had things to do.
yeah, things to do. Yeah, but yeah, yeah, that was definitely a shock when I heard of his passing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was rough. That was way too out of the blue. It's not great. We're starting to lose too many good ones.
I know it's really there's that Bill Burr comedy special, where we talk this we're all hitting that age of we're just randomly drop dead now.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It sucks.
So the record officially out? Because like I said, the last time I
Oh
checked,
yes.
there was only 4 songs
No,
available.
no. The record came out on June 27th.
Oh wow. Okay. All right.
We're going to the second week. I think third. But yeah, yeah. It's out, and it's apparently doing well. from what I've been told. Not that, I believe record sales are a very different thing now than they were, years ago. But for the time and what it is, it's apparently doing okay.
Yeah, I wonder if people even buy records anymore. I mean, I certainly do. I like to buy vinyl and things like that, but it's now it's such like this amorphous kind of ethereal thing when your album comes out, you know. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
people are like, "Oh, I love your record. I have it in my Spotify."
right, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's I collect CDs, so like it's funny now that vinyl's made such a big comeback. It's like bands aren't pressing CDs now, and I'm like, dude, you're killing me. Like, you know,
There's certain records that I have that I've had to seek out because they've only been released on CD, actually.
yeah, but that was bigger in the '90s when vinyl died.
Yeah,
Now vinyl's made its resurgence, and now people are like, who gives a shit about CDs?
yeah, definitely.
Guys in their mid 50s, that's who.
But you know what though? Honestly, I think CDs actually sound better. I mean, if you have like a decent receiver and all that, MP3s sound terrible.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I'm still my car's still old enough that I've got a CD player in my car, so
Yeah, me too, actually.
you know, gotta have them.
Yeah. By any chance, do you catch any of that Black Sabbath set over the last week?
So uh, I had to work that day actually, so
Yeah.
I watched a little bit of stuff online that I could find the good feeds of, because there's a bunch of shit that I watched that like you can only get crappy cell phone feeds.
Right.
I watched the Slayer set, and I actually thought that they showed more fire in their belly than they have in a long time. So, maybe retiring and then unretiring is good for them. Um, but I didn't really catch any of the Sabbath stuff. I kind of want to find it and like sit down with it. I've heard good and bad. Um, and then like, I watched that young blood guy do changes, and he banged it.
Dude, I thought he was fantastic,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, it was really good. Um, and then I can't really think of. I didn't really watch too much else yet. Like I said, I'm just gonna, you know, find YouTube clips over the next few weeks and parse it out.
Well, on the Saturday that the event happened,
Hmm.
we were kind of busy. We went into like the JP Morgan library and we're doing all this like, cultural stuff in the city. And then later that night, she had looked online, my wife, and was like, "Oh, that Ozzy thing was today." I was like, "What?" I'm like, "Fuck, man, I wanted to check that out." And then she was like, "We were watching clips on YouTube, just random stuff that was available." And like the next day, it was her idea to actually buy the pay-per-view. So we got the $30 pay-per-view the day after and watched it,
Right,
after the fact. And I part of me was like, man, I knew that Ozzy was in bad shape, and like I don't know if I want to remember him that way though. You know what I mean?
right,
Like
yeah,
beaten up like that, just struggling. And it was kind of like it was great. There was two mindsets I had. One was like I don't want to see him like that, and the other one was like it was a triumph of the will in some ways. You know what I mean? His
right.
will, like he was able to do this thing, and it was kind of beautiful in some respects. And but the rest of the show was cool. It was like like his Slayer. The Slayer set was incredible.
Yeah,
And there was no Dave Lombardo. It was Paul Bostoff and playing drums.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, I was just impressed that Tom actually hit the screaming angel of death. Like,
Yeah, absolutely,
because
man.
he's been mailing that in for like he just straight up hasn't done it in years. And I was like, like I saw him like go to the mic. I'm like, oh shit, he's gonna try this.
Yeah, man, he did it.
Yeah, it sounded good.
And I haven't really paid attention to Metallica in years either, man. And I thought they kicked ass too.
They've got that just respect for music. Like they're not gonna mail in something like that. Like did you see the thing they did for the Kennedy Center when they honored Elton John and they
No.
came Metallica came out and did a fucking Elton John medley, and it fucking killed. Like, it was fantastic. I want to say it was maybe about a year ago. You can find it online. Just type in Metallica Elton John and it'll pop. And it's like, when it comes to shit like that, like, they've got it together. They shouldn't write any more records, but, you know, they can still do it.
Exactly. I mean, they haven't made a good record since, I mean, it's arguably the Black Album, and I didn't even really like that record.
Yeah, you're
You know?
kinder than I am. They only
Yeah.
re- they only released three records to me.
Well, I'm in the minority of people that think that Injustice for All is like fantastic. That's like one of my favorite all-time records in metal, actually.
My issue with it is that's when they lost the thread and they stopped censoring themselves. Like, a lot of those songs could be about 2-3 minutes shorter, and they would be fucking killer.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it for sure. For me, I remember hearing that record when I got it, and I was just like blown away by just, it was like an extreme Rush album or something like that. It
Yeah,
was like if Rush was a thrash band,
right,
with like heavy, very intense like lyrics,
right.
and the lyrics is what got me on that record. It was just after that record, they stopped having they it's like they lost anything. They gave up on saying stuff in their songs, I felt like.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, as a guitarist, let me ask you a question here.
Hmm.
I really, really, I think James Hetfield is one of the greatest rhythm guitar players
The
in,
man's right hand is unstoppable.
yeah. And I'd forgotten that until I watched them play this past weekend. And now it's like, now both of us, me and my wife, are just like, dude, let's go see Metallica next time they come. Because we're going to see Slayer in the fall. And
Oh, that Hershey thing?
yeah, yeah. And I'm like, I thought these motherfuckers like retired, but they're playing like all these shows again. I'm
Yeah.
just like, it's crazy. Yeah, so we're going to that. And I just the two guitar players, like the two like Kerry King,
Hmm.
all right, Gary Holt, okay, put him in there too.
Hmm.
And James Hetfield. Hetfield is like the more disciplined,
Oh, absolutely.
palm muted, intricate, technical guy. And Holt and King are like looser, like way looser. I never really. It's funny that I never thought of it that way until I actually watched both bands in the same afternoon.
I mean, you know, I agree. Hetfield is a disciplinarian, absolutely. Like, I never once in my life have I ever come to close to down picking like him.
No,
Not even for a second. Um, Gary Holt, I think, is really tight.
yeah,
Kerry King,
in Exodus, in the Exodus material, yeah,
yeah, Kerry King is not tight. He never has been. I mean, I love his riffs. I love his songs. I fucking Slayer till I die. But he's not. I'm sure you've seen that meme of like the drawing of the horse, where the back half of the horse is like this amazing pencil drawing, and it says Slayer riffs, and then the front half of the horse is like looks like a 5-year-old did it like with their foot, and it says Slayer solos.
oh yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's like the solos are just almost like just these noise explosions.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, I still love them,
yeah, like
but they're just shrill and shocking.
it's like almost like Greg Ginn or something. You know what I mean? It's like that was the thing. It's like I always draw a line between Greg Ginn, Hanneman and King, and Trey from Morbid Angel in the
Right.
soloing department. You know what I mean? It's like the Morbid Angel solos are almost the same. They're just like these textural, like weird, noisy, discordant sort of messes.
Yeah, except for the difference is that Trey thinks he's the second coming of Eddie Van Halen.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But I enjoy like his solo style. Like I'm not one of those guys. I mean, I like a good solo. I like a nice,
Mm-hmm.
classical run. Like some sort
Sure.
of like Iron Maiden-esque kind of vibe. But the ones that really get me are those types of solos that are just like chaotic and noisy and just
Right.
a mess.
And it also depends on the music. Like, if you're just throwing out a classic rock band, give me fucking Michael Schenker all day, every day.
Yeah,
But for what Slayer is, it's perfect. It fits.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, dude, classic rock. Were you big into like a lot of that stuff when you were a kid?
Yeah, I mean, I did the gateway through Kiss, like,
Yeah, everybody.
millions of people.
Our in our age group, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, it was like a direct line from like Kiss to AC/DC to, Sabbath, Maiden, Priest, Scorpions, UFO. Um, and of course, when you're fucking 9 or 10, you don't have the money for records. So by the time I, started getting jobs at 15, then it was on to Metallica, Slayer, and Exodus, and life goes down the toilet once you start listening to that stuff all the time.
Yeah. Do you remember the nice price 4.99 LPs?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, that's dude,
Hmm.
that's how I bought most of those classic rock albums, like
Yeah,
those Michael Schenker records and UFO and
yeah. I want to say that when I still had records, I'm pretty sure my stained glass still had that sticker on it when I sold it.
yeah, no, totally, dude. That was the way to go, man. There's like 4.99. Like
Mhm.
nowadays you can't even get a cup of coffee for 4.99.
No, no.
Yeah, it's insane. Um, with respect to the Scorpions, right?
Mhm.
Uli Roth?
So I never really dove back past Love Drive too much. I've tried to listen to those records, and they just don't grab me the same way.
Right.
I think he's a phenomenal guitarist, and I've listened to what is it, Winds of Charon
Yeah,
a
yeah,
bunch
yeah.
of times to like, just be impressed by it. But at the same time, it's kind of like the same thing as most of those '80s shredders. Like, sure, it's great, it just doesn't stick with me. Like,
Yeah.
just that it's great. I wish I could play it, but it just doesn't resonate with me. I'd rather listen to fucking Rock You Like a Hurricane.
Yeah, that's definitely like I mean that was like one of kind of like one of their breakout songs when like regular people started listening to the Scorpions.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I think I've always been fascinated by Uli Roth, like those records in particular, just because they just have this like sort of dark vibe to it, and his like each one of those records, like In Trance and all that, there's always a song where he sings on it, you
I
know.
didn't.
Yeah, there's a couple of tracks where Yuli actually does vocals. Like particularly the song comes to mind. There's a song called Dark Lady where he does, and it has like it's like a weird like hybrid of Hendrix and like classical guitar playing.
Right.
And I've always thought that weird juxtaposition of those two styles like was like, really cool and like interesting, especially in the context of like a pretty heavy, heavy rock, heavy metal band.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, but I like all their shit, man. Like Lonesome Crow, like the Schenker record,
Oh
with
yeah.
Michael. They're kind of an underrated band in some ways, but I think they're great, man.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I think it was the same day as Ozzy. They played like their anniversary. They're like, I think it was their 50th. No, it was their 60th anniversary concert in Hanover, the town that they were from.
Yeah,
And like, and they had like Priest opening. Like,
dude,
yeah, you get Priest to open for you, like that's a flex. That's a big fucking flex.
dude, hell yeah. That's another thing that tripped me out. Like actually that Sabbath thing kind of fucked me up for I'm still kind of thinking about the whole experience of watching all these bands play that are like those dudes are in some of these guys are in their 70s,
Hmm.
and it contextualized time in a very uncomfortable way for me. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like even Michael Borden, the drummer who played in a lot of the
Oh yeah.
Ozzy's band. Like I don't remember him having like long gray hair. I mean, this like old man. You know what I mean? Like I remember him like not looking like that. I'm like
Yeah.
holy, like what the fuck is going on with it? Like these guys are like everyone's getting old. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the option's worse. So
But it was yeah, just it's one of those moments, like you think you want to remember like, Jakey Lee with like no shirt on with like his long
mhm.
black hair instead of like a dude who's like probably has to go to bed by like 8:30 every night.
Dude, I feel attacked on that.
Well, no, dude, hey man, dude, I'm in bed by 9 every night, dude. I I get up early, I'm in bed,
Mhm.
I got the TV going, I'm showered, like ready to retire for the evening, man.
Yeah, I hear you. Fucking 9:30 is my ding ding. Like I'm out. Out at 9:30, up at 5:15.
That's about the time I get up. I get up for like 5:30 usually every morning. Yeah. Dude, real life. It's like crazy, you know.
Yeah, the drag. It's annoying. I want to go be a rock guy.
So what else does Dead Guy have on the horizon as far as shows go?
I'm assuming this is not going to come out probably for a couple weeks.
Well, actually, it's coming out in 2 days because this was supposed to be right around the time the album came out. So I want to keep it close to
So if it's in 2 days, if you listen to it right away, we're playing Amityville Music Hall on July 11th, Crossroads in Jersey on the 12th, and Rough Trade at 30 Rock on Sunday the 4th or Sunday the 13th. That's early. I think that's at 3 o'clock. And I know that at Rough Trade, it's like a, if you buy a ticket, you get a record. And there's going to be some other like store giveaways. I guess Rough Trade like branded a whole bunch of stuff that's going to be exclusive to that.
huh.
And it's also in concert with New Noise magazine, so we're going to be on the cover of that, and I guess that's coming out at that show, where it'll only be out for a couple days. Um, and then after that, we're playing August 23rd in Virginia at in Richmond at the Warehouse with Page 99 and a
Oh,
couple of bands.
oh shit. Page 99, another reformed band.
Yeah, and I'm shocked I remembered as much as I did right there. And then beyond that, we've got some other tentative stuff, uh, things that haven't been announced yet. So I don't know if I can or can't announce them. So I'm just gonna toe the party line and keep my head shut.
Yeah, no, it's better to stick with
Hmm.
keep it
Hmm.
tight, you know what I mean? You gotta have
Yep.
tight ranks here.
Yeah.
The rough trade thing, man, that sounds cool. So you get a free record if you have a ticket?
Yeah. You get a record with a ticket, and I guess we're also gonna do a Q&A. Um, I don't know. I really don't know much about it other than I've got to be there.
And
But
it's just you guys playing?
yeah, it's just us.
And it's in Manhattan, right?
Yeah, it's in the fucking 30 Rock building, which I think is insane. I guess the store's in the basement or some shit.
Wow. Now, when
But
you were in Dead Guy back in the 90s, did you ever think you'd be playing at 30 Rock?
fuck no.
I
I certainly didn't think I'd be playing when I was 55.
didn't even think I'd be alive, man.
Yeah, no shit. No shit. Like what? Come on, you gotta be kidding. Fucking Christ, it's ridiculous. And like and the from what I understand, like it's also like a prestige thing. Like I guess uh I guess Miley Cyrus played there a few weeks ago.
Wow.
Yeah. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Like when last summer when we played the Brooklyn Paramount, because it's a pretty new venue. Um when we played there, on the video screens they had other acts that were coming through. And I was just, I'm watching it and I looked up and I'm like, I can't believe we played a place before Sting.
Sting. Wow.
Yeah, ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
That Richmond show is going to be cool. Definitely.
Christ, I haven't been to Richmond. Actually, Rorschach did Richmond when we did those reunion shows.
Yeah.
Um, and it was all right. It was the first show. It was a good one to get the rust off at.
Well, Richmond with Page 99 is going to be pretty lit, I think, honestly.
Is that where they're from?
They're from that DC Richmond area.
Okay.
And I remember we played with, well, not Tunes, but like one of my other band played with them down in DC like years ago in the late 90s, I think, and it was like
Right.
insane, the show.
Cool.
Yeah, so that should be cool. Richmond is a weird town though, as far as like with so many bands from Richmond, it's so many like dudes, with like mustaches and like long hair and, that play guitar from that town.
Right.
You would think there'd be a better showing at like heavy rock and like metal shows. But it's kind of like it's like Atlanta in some ways. Like Atlanta's kind of the same thing. There's a lot of dudes with like denim wearing guys with like
Hmm.
mustaches and long hair that they don't go to see bands play. They hang out in the bar and
Right.
like, get drunk and do coke and stuff like that.
Right.
So, yeah, it's like it theoretically it should be really cool, but you're right. If you either go down there alone, it's a crapshoot sometimes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, all this is basically new territory once again. Like I have for this entire ride, I have no expectations. Like it's all been gravy as far as I'm concerned. Like, the best part was getting to reconnect with the guys and and then realize like, why do we not like each other? That was, dumb kid shit. Who cares? You know? And now it just every time hanging out, it's just a fucking blast. It's
Now,
all
did you guys all stay in touch sort of like loosely like over the
no.
years too? Because with social media and Facebook and everything, it's easy to.
No, I mean, um, for one, I'm also a guy, so I'm just really bad at like, my absolute closest friends, I'm shitty at staying in touch with. I'm just
Yeah,
not good
no,
at,
I hear you.
you know. Dave and Chris, I know stayed fairly tight throughout the years. Um, I would maybe, pass a Facebook, chat with Tim once in a while, but I never, I saw it during the entire time from it ended till we got back together. I saw Crispy once at a Voivod show at the Best Buy Theater and like talked to him for, you know, 5 minutes possibly. I never saw Dave, and I didn't really know Jimmy until we, got back together because Pops couldn't do it, and they got Jimmy on board, and excuse me, he's amazing. Like, that was the biggest gift that I didn't know I needed in my life. That dude is a fucking riot.
I don't know him that well, but he's also a Monster Magnet, I think, still too, right?
No, no, he hasn't been a Monster Magnet for years, but
Oh yeah, I used to see him at our practice space a lot because we practiced this building in Keyport where Monster Magnet has probably practiced it for the last 30 years.
right.
Uh,
Yeah,
but yeah, but I know him. He was in Human Remains, and then he
yep,
was in the version of Dead Guy after you
yeah,
left.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, he's a blast. He's got some good stories.
that's sick, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, he's great. He's a great musician too, man. He's just
Oh
like
yeah,
sick bass player for sure.
oh yeah, and I mean, and like, yeah, the sounds that him and Steve got on the record are just they're some of them are just straight up unholy.
I got to get with the program, man. Like I said, I've only, I've, you know, granted, there's been a lot going on in my life in the last couple of weeks, but like, yeah, I have to listen to the rest of the album, man.
Yeah, yeah, whatever. I don't care. Put it on your
Well,
Spotify.
you don't care? You don't
I
care?
oh,
Well, then
shut up.
fuck you, man. I'm not going to
Fuck
listen
you. You know what I'm saying.
to
My feeling is not hurt. That's what I'm saying.
it. Nah, man. I'm definitely probably going to order the vinyl once I get off the phone with you here.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
You have like 19 different colors to choose from, apparently.
Really?
Yeah, there's a lot.
Huh.
Yeah,
I might just go with like black. You know what I mean?
I mean that's always my color of choice.
Yeah. No, that's killer, man. I'm probably going to try to catch you guys at least one of these things coming up. You know what I mean?
I mean,
And
shit. I mean, I believe Crossroads isn't too far from where
yeah,
you're
it's
at.
in Garwood. Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
too far from here. It's on Saturday, which
yeah.
I'm looking at a house this weekend, man, in
Oh,
New York State. So I don't know if we'll be back in time.
oh, whereabouts?
Yeah, the Hudson Valley.
Okay, so up by your family.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
What the deal is by my family, my mom.
right.
'Cause she's lost my dad a few months ago, and
right.
But Tina's always been a huge fan of that part of New York State. So and it's relatively close to the city. It's
Yeah,
relatively easy to get to Jersey. You just jump on the thruway,
yeah.
down
I,
here.
I pass it all the time as I go back and forth.
Because you live far upstate in New York, right?
Yeah, I'm up by Lake Placid.
Like Plattsburgh or
Yeah,
something. I'm
yeah,
not,
yeah.
you know,
I work at the
I don't want anyone stalking you up there,
yeah.
but you know.
But yeah. When I go to shows, I generally go to like Montreal or Burlington.
Yeah. Yeah, it's easy to do that. I remember back in the 90s, Plattsburgh was like there was a group of kids that had shows there all the time, and it was
Hmm.
really, really sick. It was like always a good time playing Plattsburgh, and then you play like Montreal like the next day, or you play Montreal and you come back and play in Plattsburgh or something like that, in Vermont, that area.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a scene coming back. Um, I'm not that deep into it. I've got a few friends bands that play. But there is a bar in Plattsburgh that's having shows again, which is cool. And then I see there's a bunch of stuff in Burlington, but like, you know, again, I'm fucking old, so for me to drag my ass out of my house to fucking go to Burlington, it takes a lot. Like,
Yeah.
you got to be negative approach or something.
Yeah, Burlington's a interesting town too. It's like this weird hippie-ish sort
Oh
of
yeah,
thing, but then there's like metal shows there.
yeah, yeah.
Plattsburgh though, this place in Plattsburgh, man, it was like there's like just like everything, man. It's like things are really cool for like 3 years, and you think it's always
Mhm.
going to be that way. You
Yeah,
think you're like,
yes,
oh, it's cool. This is rad, and it's going to be like this forever. But
yeah.
really, it only
Not the,
exists for like 3 years or 2 years if you're lucky, and then just one
yeah.
guy like gets his girlfriend pregnant or something, and then like some dude like goes to college and the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like I mean, I'm not saying any of these things happen to these kids in Plattsburgh, but like they had this place on called the Mason House, and it was like these like group of delinquents lived there, and
Hmm.
they just they built out their garage into a legit like show space. Like they had like a PA and like a little tiny, it was not really a stage, it was like a little riser.
Right,
And it was on the radar. Like, remember, Rich Hoke used to be like the in-house booking guy at Relapse.
right.
And he would send bands like Brutal Truth and like Bongzilla and all these bands played up there, like
Huh.
at these dudes' house. And it was like the coolest thing for like a few years, and then just dissolved. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
But yeah, that's some like 90s shit right there. You know what I mean? Bongzilla and Brutal Truth playing at someone's house.
I mean, that sounds like a great time.
Yeah, dude, and those some of the greatest memories of playing music revolve around Plattsburgh, and that's why I'm telling you, that's why I'm bringing this up to you, man.
Right.
Plattsburgh is one of these towns that I remember as being like fucking cool, and I remember playing there in the middle of the winter one year where it was like miserable though too.
Did did Sharp bring the grinder with him?
I wasn't at that show. I just heard
Oh,
about it. Yeah, the grind.
dude, I used to fucking love that. That was the best.
Yeah, yeah. Brutal Truth in that era was fucking like on
Unreal.
fire, man.
Unstoppable.
They were like the greatest band ever back then. But we played, I remember, I'm telling like war stories now. It's like we took a ferry in our van to go across Lake Champlain,
Yep.
in the middle of
Mhm.
that wintertime thing,
Yeah, I
right?
am well
And that was
familiar with that ferry.
the worst mistake ever. In the dead of winter, it was probably about -5 out there on the water. And
Hmm.
we're sitting in the van, and like the inside of the van was starting, the condensation from our breath was like freezing on the inside of the cargo van that we were driving.
Hmm. Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah. It was one of those things where you thought really you can imagine yourself dying like by of freezing to death,
Foot.
or turning the van on and asphyxiating yourself.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, they tell you to turn the van off, your car off in the winter. Nobody fucking does.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, and the Plattsburgh one that goes across, that's only 10 minutes, that
It,
ride.
it felt like hours, dude. Yeah. But that's Plattsburgh, man. Plattsburgh memories.
Mhm.
It's a Plattsburgh. If you ask me, man, no one knows this, but Plattsburgh is a fucking rock and roll town, man. I dig Plattsburgh.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hopefully they keep bringing it back. They've got some, interesting stuff coming up. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, Keith, thanks for joining us this evening. And
Sure.
I'm really stoked to listen to the rest of the album. And good luck with the shows. And I'll probably I may or may not check you out at Garwood.
Fair enough. Like I can get it, life stuff.
And no, but it's been a minute since I've seen Deadguy, so it should be.
Yeah.
I'm about due for another check out of you guys.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, man. Have a good night.
Hey, thanks for having me. Hey, you can stop recording, but hang on for a sec.
All right, cool. Let me stop recording here.
Mhm.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
We are the friends, and we didn't believe there is a place for us in this world.